Hey, I wanted to let you know there are some dates below in the description of some live events coming up that you may not want to miss. And also, while I have your attention, check out my playlists to see some content that maybe you missed already that you'll be glad you found. That's all. Okay. Good morning, or whatever time you are watching this. Whatever greeting would be appropriate for wherever you might be, whether you're watching this live or after it's been posted as a video later on. I'm Paeter from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is day 3 of my little solo tabletop game fest 2021, the first annual, maybe. We'll see. I've been having a great time with this week, so if there's almost any interest at all, I'll probably do it again next year, and really feel like I'll probably be incorporating board game content into what I do more on the Christian Geek Central YouTube channel. I've already done, if you haven't watched it yet and you're interested in fantasy board games, inspired by the one I'm going to be playing today, which is HeroQuest, I've got 2 playthrough series up on our YouTube channel, one for Gloomhaven, and which I'm not playing through the whole game in Gloomhaven. But I want to say that's about 9 videos. I want to say each of these is about 9 videos, and it's not a complete playthrough of either campaign. But Gloomhaven was the first one, and then Sword and Sorcery: Immortal Souls. I played through those as I was learning them, as I was experiencing them for the first time, and kind of giving my thoughts on them. And each of those kind of ends with a sort of a summary review for the game. So, but yeah, I'm going to be playing HeroQuest, but not maybe in the way that you've seen it played before. This whole week has been not just about solo games, but it's been very experimental in that I have been using variant rules, some that have been published and some that are just kind of like my own rules, combinations of the two. I have been breaking rules both on purpose and on accident because I'm terrible at multitasking, and so this is the first time this week that I have tried to live stream playing board games before. I've done some video stuff, like some pre-recorded stuff and edited stuff, but this is the first time I've done anything live like this, and the way my brain works, it's really hard for me to try and make good tactical decisions and keep track of rules, especially in some of these games that I haven't played in years. And then also be thinking about, are the cards in the camera? Can you guys see? Is everything working the way it's supposed to go? And is there any comments over in the chat? And keeping track of all that is just, oh my gosh. So anyway, if you don't mind seeing me break rules on accident and on purpose and make subpar tactical decisions, then you're in a decent place. Otherwise, you're gonna have a hard time. But I have been embracing the theme. That's really what I play board games for, is not for the challenge. I know that a lot of solo gamers really embrace that hobby in particular for the challenge that it can bring, taking on a big puzzle in front of you. And that's not really what I'm in it for. I'm in it for the theme and the emerging story that happens through the decisions that I see being made in the game. And that's particularly the case, I suppose, when I'm playing solo games that are not meant to be played solo. I played Doom, the board game, yesterday, which is the 2004 game which I played is made for an invader player, a player who controls all the enemies, like a game master, a dungeon master, what have you. And then a number of other players that are each controlling one hero. And I played all the roles in that game. I'm doing the same thing here. I'm going to be playing as both Zargon and the hero players. And I am making some rules changes with that in mind to try and play to the strengths of how that could potentially work and mitigate the weaknesses as much as I can. But this game is being so heavily modified. Now I've had this game since I was in junior high. I actually have 2 copies of the game. I picked up another one eventually from a buddy of mine who we played this game together for years and years and years and years until eventually Descent First Edition came along, and then we moved on to that. And have been moving on to other games since then, but we really do like those campaign-type games and dungeon crawl games whenever possible. And this is the granddaddy of them all. And there's only so many times I think you can play most any game, and that's certainly true of HeroQuest, especially when other games came along. The rules that they added or changed many of them improved the experience for me, especially as you're growing older and more sophisticated as a player. Sophisticated in the sense that you can handle more rules and more complex rules and stuff. And so, in HeroQuest, once you've played it for a while, it just becomes mind-numbingly easy and formulaic in terms of what the strategy is to clear each room. So I don't know how much I plan on walking you through every single rule change that I'm making. I'll probably talk about the rules that I'm breaking or changing on purpose as I feel like they significantly pertain to the choices that I'm making in the game, but I might neglect to do that at some times. I don't want it to become too cumbersome. This is not meant to be, well, certainly not meant to be like an introduction to how HeroQuest is played, and neither is it meant to be an introduction to my house rules and modifiers that I am experimenting with. That's been a theme this week, is experimenting. I don't claim that any of my modifications have been play tested and that they're something you should consider doing. If anything, maybe you'll just get an idea for some other thing that you'll do with your game or your games. But anyway, yeah, this is just structured playtime with me and my toys, and if you're down to watch that, then I hope you enjoy. So one of the reasons that I've wanted to play HeroQuest, even a heavily modified version of HeroQuest, is there's a reprint coming for this in reportedly the fall of 2021. It was a big success on Kickstarter, and the rules are going to be virtually unchanged. The components are getting a subtle upgrade, but even the components, the artwork, the aesthetics are aiming to be very faithful to the original, just modernized and the quality improved a little bit. But otherwise, from what I understand, the rules are virtually unchanged. And so I felt like playing this game right now is going to have some added relevance. And on top of that, I can't help but wonder if a lot of players that buy that reprint are going to be really into it for a little while, and then maybe they haven't played it in a long time, not since they were kids or something, and then they'll get it and they'll realize, oh, I am maybe a little bit too old for this game now. I mean, I see the strings on the puppet. I see the code in the matrix, and my exploration of this gameplay is getting pretty formulaic, because what do you do when you play HeroQuest? You always search for traps. You always search for secret doors. And you always, once your guys are positioned carefully and not near a door, search for treasure to see if there's anything that you're not going to miss. And you're going to put your Barbarian at the front of the door and bottleneck battle whatever enemies are in that room. So it becomes, there are just some tactics in this game that make the most sense and that you are going to do because of the limitations of the game, the confines of the game. So they just kind of lead you to do these certain things, and that can make the game very formulaic. So my hope is that by just experimenting and playing around with some different ideas for rules, for a boatload of different monsters — I have a bunch of different monster stats that I'll probably tap into just a little bit in this quest — that maybe I will help those who get this game, the reprint of this game, realize that the honeymoon period may be over, if that ever happens for you as a player, but there's still a lot of potential if you just mess around and have a willingness to explore and experiment with this game, because the core of HeroQuest, I think, is really, really strong, and I think it's why so many games have been inspired by it since then. So anyway, my plan is, let's see here. Oh, by the way, if you are curious and want to see a list of the rules that I'm kind of playing and modifying with, I put all of them on Board Game Geek. There's a link below the live video, and when I put this up on like later, it's just a regular video, I imagine I'll include that link as well. So you can go to the forum post that I put on Board Game Geek, and you can see all of the rules that I'm attempting to play with and experiment, many of which for the first time. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to be playing a quest that, if you've played HeroQuest before, you're probably familiar with, especially if this is a game that you used to own or do own, and that's the Trial. And I was like, do I really want to do this? Everybody is so familiar with the Trial. It's the first quest in the base campaign that comes with the game. But I thought this would be a good kind of reference point so you can get an idea of how I'm modifying the game, what how my experimental modifications change the experience, so I felt like this was a pretty good reference point to start with. But we've got to read the opening flavor text for this one, the trial. So we've trained, we've become heroes. Mentor has prepared us to go out because there's evil coming to the land. Zargon is, he's an old evil awakening. Isn't there always an old evil awakening? So that's what's going on here. And at the end of our training, as we prepare for Quest 1, the flavor text read by our mentor, because the Game Master player is both mentor and Zargon. He's both the good, benevolent, helping mentor and the evil enemy Zargon. Anyway, you have learned well, my friends. Now has come the time of your first trial. You must enter the catacombs which contain Felmarg's tomb. You must seek out and destroy... Oh, let's see. I said... Oh, there it is. Oh, good. I'm so glad I didn't lose it. It says in the quest notes, you must seek out and destroy Verig, a foul gargoyle. But I'm going to say, let's see. What's a good name for a gelatinous cube? I don't know. We're just going to say, an evil wizard is guarding this dungeon with a gelatinous cube. And this is a printable mini that I got at printableheroes.com, I believe it is. Printable Heroes. Anyway, a lot of great free resources there. And this is like original art, so it's not like the kind where you can, you're printing questionable things and violating copyright and stuff like that. This is a nice little bit of material, and a bunch of stuff is available there that you can use in most any RPG. And so I printed it out, created this kind of like little plastic thing to put it in. But this is actually what I'm going to be fighting at the end in place of the gargoyle. It's just one of about 50 monster stats that I've created over time, bringing over from other games and creating roughly stat equivalents, hopefully, so that the balance of the game doesn't go totally out of whack. But this will be the end boss, the gelatinous cube, if I'm able to make it to the end of this quest. And so anyway, I'll just set that aside for now. But this disgusting gelatinous cube created by an evil wizard hides in the catacombs guarding its treasure. This quest is not easy, and you must work together in order to survive. This is your first step on the road to becoming true heroes. Tread carefully, my friends. Now, I do have rules that I've made that will basically give a point value to all the traps that are potentially found in a quest, in the quest map. But this first quest, as you may know, famously does not have any traps. It's just meant to kind of help acclimate the players to the game, and traps, I guess they felt like was going to be just one too many things to kind of think about and get used to. But yeah, that just gives you an idea of, like, once you get to know this game, like playing a quest with, like, you're just going to tell me out at the front there's no traps to worry about? Okay. So anyway, let's see here. One thing that you kind of have to give up when you're trying to do a game like this playing solo is a lot of the element of surprise. I am looking at this map and I know what's in the rooms. I know what monsters are there. I will be able to change that up a little bit with the monsters I've added, and kind of adding an element of randomization in terms of what monsters potentially get swapped in instead of the monsters that are there. But other elements like the treasure contents that are part of the notes as opposed to in the deck, those are going to be set in stone. I do have a modified treasure deck that I'm going to be drawing from that can really bring a lot of unpredictable things. So I try to preserve in what ways I can the element of exploration and discovery through some of the randomized elements that I'm able to bring into it. But I think that when you're trying to do this with a game that's built to be played this way, you do have to just be content to give up some element of surprise. But one thing that helps in a game like this is if you are largely, as the hero players, making all your decisions on your turn, and then as the Zargon player making all your decisions as Zargon on your turn, as opposed to other games like Doom and First Edition Descent, where the bad guy player in particular is sometimes making choices that interrupt the players in the middle of their turn. And so it's hard to kind of segment your brain and play as both sides when both sides are kind of active in the game at the same time. So actually I think it works better in a game like this, where for the most part you're just focused on one role at a time. So anyway, we'll see how this goes. First thing that I am going to do, well, I don't have to search for traps. There's no point in doing that at all in this version of the game. I don't roll for movement. Oops. All right, I'm going to have to check and make sure that my oldest is getting up for school in just a second here, because I'm doing this while still trying to get some work things done and making sure that I'm still a dad in the taxi service that I provide for my kids and stuff. So, but anyway, before I kind of get into go and do that, I can have an automatic move of 6 instead of rolling if I choose, and so I'll just go ahead and do that. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then he's going to open up the door. And then he will take 1 step out. Now, normally, one of the rules that I have in play here is that I am able to, like, anytime a hero moves into a new room or or what do you call it, or a hallway, that's when a trap is potentially sprung. But I have to have threat points to spend on that. But let's just go ahead and let me just give you an idea of that. So on when I enter a new room on a black shield. Okay, so there's an example. A black shield, then a trap is sprung, and I would spring the most expensive trap that I'm able to, depending on like what the wandering monster is. And so in this quest, see, I've got a few notes here, but in this quest, the wandering monster is an orc, and so at this point, I could spend 5 threat to spring a pit trap or 4 threat to spring a spear trap. And so I will actually just go ahead and spring a spear trap. Just as an example here, and I do have to remind myself, I've been playing this a lot with my son Titus, and let's see here, if you're also going to suffer one person, okay, no, let's see, okay, so I can try to roll a black or white shield, so let's see if I dodge it. Okay, no I don't, so he, right off the bat, takes 1 point of damage. Now, I just did that to kind of show you the rules here. I'm not actually going to subject myself to potentially getting hit by traps like that, but that's normally how those rules would work. You roll to see if a trap is sprung, and then, as the normal rules are, you roll to see if you're able to dodge out of the way. But either way, his turn is now going to be over, and then we'll move on to the Barbarian's turn. I think I might have to use a die over here to kind of keep track of whose turn it is. Anyway, just give me a couple seconds to just make sure that my oldest is up and moving and getting ready to go to school. Okay, now I do need to also set up this hallway because the hallway's been revealed. So put out that door. I do have all the original components for this game. As I said, I have 2 sets of it. A buddy of mine that I played this game with for years, I didn't know for years he actually owned the game, but he never had a reason to get it out because we were always playing my copy. But at some point he gave it to me as a donation to the cause because, you know, we were playing it so much that my pieces were eventually going to be wearing out, and we're already seeing some wear. But anyway, he donated it to the cause. But you might notice that the wizard here is not the original. That's because this is the mini that I use when I'm playing in tabletop RPGs as a wizard. and I use this to represent the wizard Elderast, who, those of you who have watched my content in the past have probably seen me play as Elderast in video games, and earlier this week playing Mage Knight as Elderast, and he's a bitter old wizard out to destroy whoever is responsible for inflicting this life upon him. So he's really got a chip on his shoulder. But he's determined to be the most powerful wizard in the world, nay, the multiverse. So he's along with Thundar the Barbarian, Tanis, who is not a half-elven in this game, he's just a full-blooded elf, but Tanis being a character from the Dragonlance series of novels. Dogrin Scarboard, that's another character along with Elderast that is part of the pilot that I've produced that may go forward. We'll see if the support on Patreon gets high enough to greenlight that series, but a fantasy audio drama series that I produced a pilot for, and Dogrin is a character in that. But in here, dwarfs are a little bit different in that story. He's just a normal dwarf in this world. But anyway, so those are the characters. I'm working with the normal character classes that come with the game, even though one of the minis there is different. So, okay, so that's the end of the Barbarian's turn. And now Elf. I always used to remember Barbarian, Elf, Dwarf, Wizard. I used to remember the turn order by saying Bedwetter. Bed and W, B-E-D-W. I don't know, did anybody else come up with that? Did anyone else gravitate toward that particular phrase, bed, wetter? I'd be really interested if anybody else who grew up playing this game had that in their head, or if that was just, I was the only one that, I mean, B-E-D, bed, at least that, maybe stuck out, but what do you do with W? I don't know, seems like with W, you gotta say wetter, bed wetter. All right, so, now, as far as the surprise and the dungeon and stuff like that being kind of lost, that doesn't have a big effect on me because as a person who's loved dungeon crawls both in tabletop form and video game form for about as long as I can remember, I do a clean sweep of the dungeon. I'm going to get to every room. It's not like I'm going to miss anything. I am going to make sure every room gets explored. So, Elf now, and he'll go 1, 2, let's see. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he'll stop there. And let's see, do I want to search for treasure? I don't think I want to search for treasure because I don't want to risk a pit opening up in the middle of the hallway. I really like to reserve that for rooms. I suppose a lot of HeroQuest players would also take that same approach. So that's the Elf. Now the Dwarf is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the Wizard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? Let's just keep him right here. Okay, and now, did I prep my... I guess I didn't quite have my tokens ready as ready as I wanted to have them. Where did I put that? You know what? I will keep track. I was gonna use threat tokens like threat tokens from Descent First Edition, but I think I'll just use like a little pad of paper and keep track that way. It'll probably be a little less fiddly. But at the start of every one of Zargon's turns, he gets a threat token, or a point of threat, I suppose, as it'll be here. And he can use that eventually to spawn monsters or spawn traps, and can spring them on any player, and the player has a chance to then dodge it. In fact, that's probably what I will be using it for more than spawning monsters, is spawning traps. And so since the wandering monster in this quest is an orc, I have determined, as I said earlier, that I can spring a pit trap for 5 threat and a spear trap for 4. So even though this quest is not designed to have any traps in it, that's something that I have the potential to spring on my heroes, and I'm sure that I will next chance I get. Okay, so the Barbarian now is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and stop right there. I'm not sure how fast I might want to move things along. Let's Yeah, let's go ahead and open up the door and just kind of keep things going. Um, he's not going to move in because, well, I guess he could move in on this quest and potentially end up springing a trap. I mean, we'll see what happens. Actually, well, no. That first one was just a sample. I don't have any threat points, you know. Um, well, I could build up enough threat. And one of the rules that I made for myself is once I have enough threat and a hero enters a room or a corridor for the first time, if I have the threat, I need to roll and see if a trap is sprung. And yes, that does mean that I could get a pit trap right near a door. And that's a really lousy thing because then all the heroes are going to have to jump that trap if they want to get through that door. But, you know, I figure if I can do things to make it more challenging for myself, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, I don't play for challenge, but having just enough challenge can have some built-in drama, you know, and that's what I want is a little bit of drama. Okay, so let's set up this room here. So we got a bookshelf. Really still love these components. We've got, an alchemy bench here. The attention to detail, like a little piece like that little scale that you put on there, that's kind of nuts. Scale goes on this side, I guess. Yeah. And then one more door over here. And now we've got, in this room, normally what I would do at this point, in a future quest, and maybe I'll do some in this quest too, is look at my monster ranks and conversions chart. And so I have 2 orcs in this room, and so I'd look through here and see, okay, where are my orcs listed? I've got an orc here. Of the 50 monsters that I have, the scout is the only one that's equivalent on a 1-to-1, roughly, to an orc. But this is a room that has 2 orcs in it. And so what I would do here, if I wanted to randomize, is roll a die that has, you know, enough on it, so probably a 6-sider with all these, until I get one of these numbers as a result. And so randomizing this room, it could be 2 orcs, or it could be a dark elf assassin, an elemental, an ogre warrior, or an ogre champion. But I'm going to just kind of ease us into some of those alternate monster possibilities because I figure, in fact, I might do very little randomizing the monsters in this quest because the monsters that, even the normal monsters that I still use, each have a special ability. That's something that I am experimenting and trying to add. Provides some tactical variety. And now one thing that I need to keep in mind, a rule that I need to keep in mind is I allow monsters to move past heroes and for heroes to move past monsters, but at risk. I call that reckless charge. Any figure is allowed to move through spaces of an enemy figure, but once they land in the space that is their destination, they need to allow each enemy figure they pass through to make a free attack against them, for which they can only roll half of their normal defense dice rounded down. And so there's a real risk involved. And so I felt that would help preserve the balance a bit. But it also means that I can't just count on bottlenecking enemies every time at the door. If Zargon really wants to get at my wizard, he can be willing to take some risks to get at my wizard, you know. And so I'm going to see how that works. I have spent some time while I was watching a movie with my dad last night, printing out a bunch of stats on cards so that I could realize that, oh my gosh, I've got 50 monsters here. I've got like a packet with all the stats on them, but you know, what if I spawn a room that has an A monster and a Y monster in it? I'm going to be flipping back and forth all the time. So I remember that Descent First Edition had the handy card system so that I could put out in front of me the stats for whatever monster I'm going to be dealing with. So in this room, we're just dealing with orcs. So I will put out, as soon as I find it, here we go. there's my stats for Orcs. And as they normally do, they have an attack of 3, a defend of 2, they have a body of mind, mind of 2, move 8, and they have an ability called Flesh Eater. So, let me pull open my Monster Abilities reference and see what I had for Flesh Eater. Now, most of these rules variants I came up with, I realized, actually 7 years ago, and I did post at that time, posted a lot of that on Board Game Geek. Couldn't remember where it was, and I've made a few modifications since then, so I just made a new post. But let's see what we have here for Flesh Eater, and see what I think of it today. Flesh Eater. Targeted hero gains a bleed token. So in order to trigger this ability, actually I should say this, unless it says that it's automatically triggered, let's see, where did I put that? I've got rules for that. Here we go. Yeah, so each monster, probably won't be able to see this, each monster has one or more abilities they may attempt to use on an adjacent hero, unless otherwise noted, instead of attacking them as normal. This is done by rolling 1d6. If they roll a 4 through 6, their ability is successfully used against the hero. If it's a 1 through 3, then their ability does not trigger and they do not attack. So to try and use any of these abilities, unless it's an automatic ability, which it'll say on the character if it is, there is some risk involved. So I wanted to kind of ease myself in. Maybe I'll change if I feel like, oh, they're not triggering frequently enough. In fact, I think the first time I had them only trigger on a 5 or 6. And I modified that because they weren't triggering as often and it was a little bit too easy. So anyway, Flesh Eater. Let's see. And my hope is that, you know, once I familiarize myself a bit with some of these abilities, that I won't have to look them up all the time. Targeted hero gains a bleed token. First edition Descent players will recognize that idea. At the beginning of every turn, they roll 1 combat die per token. On a skull, they lose a body point. On a white shield, they can remove 1 bleed token. On a black shield, and nothing happens. Remove all bleed tokens from any hero who drinks a healing potion or is the target of a healing spell. This status has no effect on rock skins. So in other words, if you have this status and you lose some, you take some damage from it, you lose some health from the effects of this, you will not lose the protection of the rock skin spell on you. All right. So let's go ahead and have this orc move forward. Oh wait, no, it's not his turn yet. We just revealed the room. Come on, settle down, Paeter. Okay, so that was the barbarian. Now it's the elf's turn. Let's see here. Do I want to get in there and just kind of start things up? I don't know. Let's see what happens. I'll try my usual bottleneck tactics for now. So he's going to just stand right here, and he does not have line of sight to either of the orcs in there at this point. Now we'll do the dwarf's turn. He will line up right here. So far, this is kind of feeling pretty conventional. And then the wizard's going to go right here. And now on Zargon's turn, I'm going to get one more threat. And this orc is going to move forward. 1, 2. And yeah, let's see if we can trigger that. Let's see if we can trigger that ability. I do have the red dice that come with the game, but I found that in playing this game with my son, who's my youngest, who has been running me through the base campaign, both expansions. Now we're on to one of the European expansions. And he plays as Zargon. But the red dice that come with it have rounded edges, as many of you guys will know. And that just slows down the rolls just a little bit. In fact, even though I have the original dice, in fact 2 sets of the original dice, that are holding up okay. In fact, I kind of like the worn and there's little bits of I don't know, just gunk or dirt or whatever. You can see the grooves of the wood in these dice because of how much they've been handled over the years. You know, just little bits of human matter, I suppose. So I really like the look of these dice, especially in the way they've been worn. It just has a sense of the ancient and the arcane to it. However, again, they have the rounded edges, and so I made these dice for myself, and I actually prefer rolling these for combat and stuff. So actually, let me just, unless I really need those dice, let me move aside the originals. But anyway, yeah, let's see Let's see if this ability triggers. It does on a 4 through 6. And so he gives a bleed token, if I can find it. Here we go. The Barbarian gets a bleed token. Let's see, should I put it on? I'll put it on his character sheet, and hopefully that will remind me how that works. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, so at the beginning of his turn is when I need to roll for that. Okay, cool. So that was the Orc's turn. Let's see, I'm going to see... Gosh, if this Orc tries to get to the Wizard, let me see, I'm going to try and get to the Wizard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 3 attacks now, 3 free attacks that these guys get on him. Now, one of my house rules with the Barbarian, you wouldn't notice it right now, but is that he starts with a short sword instead of a broadsword. And this is not a rule I came up with. Somebody on Board Game Geek came up with this years ago, and I saw it, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. But he gets +1 combat die with any weapon he attacks with. And what that does is, it means that there's something that's inherently special about him as a fighter. As the rules have it, he just starts with a better weapon. So there's nothing inherently better about him as a fighter, as an attacker, than, say, the Dwarf or the Elf. And so once you get deep into the game and you've got resources to really kit out all of your heroes, the uniqueness of the Barbarian really starts to fade, especially when compared to the Dwarf. You know, he's got 1 extra body point, 1 extra mind point, but that's it. And he can't disarm traps near as well as the Dwarf and stuff. And so I really like the idea of him always having 1 extra die to attack with no matter what weapon he's using. So yeah, it doesn't give him any advantage, especially in the early game, because he's still just rolling with 3 attack dice, as he would have been anyway. But it's nice in the late game. So anyway, he gets a free attack, and let's see let's see, what's the defense rating? Oh yeah, it's right here. Come on, Paeter, your card's right in front of you. So, ooh, he gets 2, and the Orc only gets 1 defend die. So he's only going to be able to block 1 of those, which means he dies just trying to get past the Barbarian alone. All right, so that's the end of Zargon's turn. Now we're back to the Barbarian. The Barbarian needs to roll to see what happens with this bleed token. All right, Black Shield. What was that again? Black Shield. Okay, nothing happens. So he's not bleeding from that yet. That's good. Now he is going to attack, right? Now here's a couple other things that I've done. I've given special abilities to each of the heroes, and I'm not going to activate this one yet. But the Barbarian special ability is called Berserker Rage. Once per quest, before rolling attack dice, you may place this card on your character sheet to gain +2 attack dice and -2 defense dice. You add 1 token to this card that I have here at the start of each of your turns. When there are 3 tokens on this card, remove it from the game. So for about 3 turns, it means that your Barbarian is going to be really good at attacking, really lousy at defending, and he can go into that mode once per quest. The Dwarf has something similar, but it's reversed. His ability is called Stubborn Resolve. Once per quest, before rolling defense dice, you may place this card on your character sheet to gain +2 defense dice and -2 attack dice. Add 1 token to this card at the beginning of each of your turns. When there are 3 tokens on this card, remove it from the game. The Elf has the ability Acrobat, which basically makes him better at moving through enemy spaces compared to all other figures on the board, heroes or enemies. The Elf may move through enemy figures, but must end his movement in an empty space. After ending his movement, the Elf player individually rolls 1 combat die for each enemy space he moved through. On a skull, the enemy gains a free attack against the Elf, who may roll defense dice. So it's less likely that he'll be attacked when he moves through enemy spaces, and if he is attacked, he does still get to roll his full amount of defense dice. So that's just a static thing that the Elf can do whenever he wants. And then finally, the Wizard has an ability called Seeking Bolt, which is kind of like Magic Missile, right? The Wizard deals 1 damage to any monster in his line of sight and then rolls 1 combat die. So this takes something out of him. On anything but a black shield, the wizard loses 1 body point. The monster may not roll defense dice. So really useful, but potentially harmful to the wizard. But I wanted something that would make him a little bit more useful at any time, instead of just those 1 or 2 times where it's like, okay, he's got his spells saved up for this big bad. Let's finally bring the wizard to the front and have him do something. This means that in a pinch, or toward the end, if you've already burned some spells, that he can still be useful, even though there's some risk to himself. Okay, so anyway, that was the Barbarian. Oh no, the Barbarian rolled for the bleed token. Now he's going to attack, right? I don't think I did that. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so he gets 2 skulls, and the orc can potentially defend, but he does not. So the orc is defeated. All right, so that's the Barbarian's turn, and I guess he'll go ahead and... Oh, I don't need to roll to move. Come on, Paeter. Let's see, he'll go 1, 2, 3, and I guess just kind of get himself... Oh, wait a minute, he moved in here. So if I had threat, I got to remember this, if I had threat, I would need to roll to trigger a trap right there. But I don't, so he's going 1, 2, 3, and he's just going to stop. Do we want to open that door yet? Not yet. All right, so the elf is going to move in, and he'll go 1, 2, 3. Now I know that there are no secret doors, so that's another thing that you kind of have to give up in this quest, is the surprise of secret doors. But again, as like a long-time HeroQuest player, I am never going to fail to search for secret doors. I'm just not. You know, I mean, my son has figured that out and has started to realize, oh, being Zargon is kind of boring, or there's some parts of this game that can be kind of boring, and it's because he realized, okay, Daddy every time is not going to forget to search for traps, search for secret doors, and very tactically search for treasure. That's just how it's going to be. That is a law of reality. And so I'm okay with giving up, the surprise of secret doors and stuff. So, but there is still surprise from searching for treasure. Oh, hey, somebody's in the chat. Hello, hi to you. Let's see here. He says, hi again. Hopefully my battery doesn't die as soon as I start watching. Oh, bummer. Again, for anybody that might be watching, hi to you or anybody else, would love to interact with you. It will be harder for me to do that during this kind of stream compared to a video game live stream. It's just the nature of this, and my chat window is further away. So I apologize if I miss your comments or questions in the chat. You can up the odds of getting my attention by putting in your text chat, your text entry before you type anything, at ChristianGeekCentral, no spaces. And then for me, if you spell all that right without any spaces, it'll be highlighted in orange and just be a little more likely to get my attention. And every now and then, as I'm able, I'll look over and try to respond as I can. But good to see you. Hi to you. Thanks for coming out. Okay. What was I doing? See, this is another reason why I got to be careful, and why chat is a little bit more difficult, because I lose my train of thought. I forget what I was doing. The elf is going to search for treasure. I think I've shuffled this a bunch of times, but let me just shuffle it badly one more time. The treasure deck. Now, this is 2 treasure decks combined into one, and I also went through, and I can't remember how many cards, if it was 8 of them or 2 sets of 8, but at least 8 of them I have, and some of you guys are going to cringe, but I did this years ago. I don't think I would do it today. Maybe I would. I don't know. I used a Sharpie and wrote numbers on some of them. Now I would sleeve them and put some Sharpie note on the sleeve itself, instead of on the actual card. But that's all right. I mean, my main thing is I don't really care about resale. I preserved this stuff and my other nerdy stuff that I've had for a long, long time, really so that my future kids could potentially enjoy them. And, my boys have been enjoying them. Mission accomplished. If these things start seeing wear and tear over time, I'm content to let go of them. I'm going going to be 43 in just in April. And so more and more I'm just seeing, this, I'm not going to be here forever, and there are things that I'm going to be letting go of in the coming decades if the Lord lets me live that long. So might as well start getting into that mindset now. All right, so that's enough waxing philosophical. Let's see what happens when the elf searches for treasure. Hazard! Or as a friend of mine used to say, hazard! When you are searching, a hidden arrow shoots from the wall, striking you. You lose 1 body point, and your turn is over. Return this card to the bottom of the deck. So yeah, that does indeed suck. So that brings my elf down to 5, and his turn is over. Dwarf. Okay, Dwarf is moving in. Going to take up his usual position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right over here. And he is also going to search for treasure. Let's see what we got. Gold! Not a numbered card, so we just get what's on the card. You find a loose stone and tear it from the wall. Behind it, you discover a small leather pouch wrapped in an old rag. Peering inside, you find 25 gold coins. Record the money on your sheet. Do not return this card to the deck. So 25, very nice. What I tend to do, just so I don't keep writing and erasing over the same spots, is I tend to just put these kinds of cards next to the hero that gets it, and then I tally them up at the end. So that was the Dwarf, so I'll just slide that under his section of the character sheet. And then if there's something that causes me to reshuffle the cards altogether, the discard pile into the deck, as is something that happens in my in some of my altered rules, then I'll cross that bridge when I come to it and do the tallying at that point. But anyway, okay, so that was the Dwarf. And now the Wizard is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He is not going to search for treasure. I don't think I can't remember the last time I've ever searched for treasure with the Wizard. Maybe at the end of a quest when everything was cleared and I was feeling really cocky. Okay, so then we have Zargon's turn. Oh, I think I forgot. Did I forget to roll that bleed token? Has it been that long? I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to do it now. So let's roll for this bleed token. See what happens. That's a skull. I think I take a point of damage there. Flesh Eater, 1 body point. Yep. Dang it. So my Barbarian is already down to 6. I might have to burn a healing spell on him pretty soon here. We'll hold off just a little bit longer. Okay. So Barbarian's turn. He is going to open up this door. And let's see, we put another door here. Put the weapons rack right there. Let's actually, let me see if this camera position will be a little bit better. See it from that angle for a little bit, just as long as this cord doesn't get in my way too much. And this room has a goblin and a femur. I believe in the reprint there will be no femurs, nor will there be Chaos Warriors. They have a new name because this game was a combined effort between Milton Bradley and oh my gosh, what is their name? The Warhammer guys. Yeah, I've lost it. Whoever they are, I'm not a miniatures gamer. Normally I would be able to. It's whenever I'm freaking podcasting or streaming, remembering names, like, just totally goes out the window. But anyway, that really well-known company that I should totally know as a geek and risk having to turn in some of my geek credit, geek credentials, because I can't remember it. But Games Workshop. Freaking Games Workshop. Well, Games Workshop, it's because of that, well, in part, I think at least, that's made a reprint less likely to happen, made some attempts at reprinting it complicated. So understandably, this time around, Milton Bradley in their reprint is, or whoever it is now, I don't know if it's Milton Bradley even exists, or if it's like they're owned by another, I don't know. Anyway, no Femurs, because that's a Games Workshop IP. Technically, no Chaos Warriors. I think they changed the name of them to something else. But it's the same looking kind of model, big, bulky, armor-looking guy. Anyway, So, Fimmer, let's get out these cards. I'll just keep the Orc card handy because I might need that again. But let's get out. Here we go, Goblin. And he's got an attack 2, defend 1, body mind, mind 1, body 1, mind 1, move of 10, and the ability Steal. Now I remember what this one is. If this ability triggers, this is a nasty little thing, but I wanted to do something that would make goblins just a little bit more irritating. If they are adjacent to a hero and they choose to do their ability and it successfully triggers, then they steal 25 gold from that hero and then vanish. So they go off the board. So you don't have to deal with them after that. They are kind of dead, as it were. But they have the ability Steal. And, man, especially I think late in the game, when goblins are like nothing to you, if they can steal 25 a pop when that ability triggers, suddenly you're going to take goblins a lot more seriously. Let's see here. Fimmer. Here's the Fimmer. He's got an attack of 3, defend 3, body 2, mind 3, move 6, and the grapple ability. So let me refresh my memory on how grapple works. Let's see. I'm just gonna read it. Okay. The targeted hero, you have to be adjacent to the hero to trigger this ability. This is another one very much inspired / ripped off from Descent First Edition. Targeted hero may not move, attack, or cast spells, or roll defense dice until this creature is dead or no longer adjacent to the hero. At the start of the hero's turn while grappled, he may roll 1d6. If the result is lower than the hero's starting body, the grapple is broken, and they may move the grappling creature 1 space in any direction. So that's kind of like, I was figuring out a way, what would make sense, how could I do a strength check? And using their attack dice didn't quite seem right, because, because their strength is all the same, technically. It's based on kind of like the weapon that they're using. And so the thing that was different about each of them was their body. I was like, okay, I think that kind of makes sense. So that's kind of like their strength stat. If I'm looking for one in my mind, I base it off of their starting body. If the result is lower than the hero's starting body, not their current body, their starting body, the grapple is broken, and they may move the grappling creature 1 space in any direction. If it is not possible to move the creature, the grapple is still broken. So, we'll see if I feel like doing that at this point. I'm not sure if I really have a motivation to do it, because if I get him grappled first and then on the next round I try to attack him, then that could be really devastating. Let me see. Am I able to grapple and no, I don't think it's not written here, but I think the spirit of my intention was not that a monster be able to have them grappled and attack them at the same time. I think it's one or the other. The idea is he holds him down while other monsters that he's with will wail on the hero when he's, fairly defenseless. So I don't think I'm going to try and do that here, because all I have is the goblin, and the goblin cannot attack diagonally. I am thinking in the back of my mind, do I want to create some way that that some monsters can attack diagonally? I think actually a small number, very small number of them do have that as a special ability, because they've got like a pole arm or a spear or something like that. But I think there's plenty of special things going on with my rules modifications that I don't need to introduce diagonal attacking for a bunch of the monsters. So anyway, that's the grapple ability, but I don't think I'm going to use it. So, whose turn is it now? Let's see. I think it's the... Did the dwarf search for treasure? I don't know that he did. I don't remember now. I'll have the dwarf search for treasure. Let's see what happens here. Potion of Strength, very nice. You find a small purple flask. You can drink this strange smelling liquid at any time, enabling you to roll 2 extra combat dice the next time you attack. This may only be used once. Do not return this card to the deck. So, very nice. Oh, you know what? He did. I think he did. That's how he got this gold. Well, he also has a Potion of Strength now. And this is the fun of playing by yourself, as long as you don't mind making mistakes, breaking rules, cheating, making things unfair, you're playing by yourself. And it's your box of toys, and you can play with them however you want. So let's see here. That was the dwarf. Now the wizard, he's not going to do anything. Oh yeah, I was making the comment that I will never search for treasure with him. So, yeah. Hey, let's give myself an extra threat, just in case. I might have given myself threat already. Maybe I was in the middle of Zargon's turn when I got lost and started searching for treasure for the dwarf. But hey, he's getting maybe an extra threat out of my mistake. Let's see. Do I want to try and get the goblin in there? I think it's unlikely the goblin's going to survive a trip past the dwarf is the one that has gold. Let's just see. Let's see if he can sneak by, because I really don't think that the goblin is going to be much of a threat, even at this stage. Yes, he has 2 attack dice. Well, I don't know. We'll just try. So goblin's going to go first. He'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and stop here next to the dwarf in hopes of stealing from him if he survived this little trip here. But here comes the barbarian. Oh, look at that. So that's all shields. 2 white, 1 black. So he does survive. Now he's going to try and trigger his ability. Oh, punk! Punk stole my gold. Oh, that is frustrating. Okay. So that goes into the discard pile then. Man, early game. That might be a little overpowered, because I so count on gold at this point. But we'll see. Man, that hurts. Okay, so now we're going to go with the Fimmer. Again, he's not going to grapple, but he is going to attack the Barbarian. Miss, complete miss. I am not disappointed in that at all. So now it is the Barbarian's turn. And let's see, he will... I don't think I need to use Berserker Rage at this point. Yeah, he's just going to do a standard attack. And that's 1 skull. The Fimmer gets 3 defense dice. And he gets 1 black shield, dang it. So he does successfully defend. Do I want to... Oh, no. The elf can totally get to the goblin here. So the elf is going to move here and attack the goblin. And he gets 2 attack dice. So let's see here. Oh, yeah. 2 skulls. The goblin only has 1 defend dice, so he's not going to be able to survive that. Nice. One thing I wouldn't mind, I mean, if I decide I like these rules and I get comfortable using them and it doesn't bog down the game too much, because that's the real challenge when you're modifying HeroQuest to add things, add some complexity, add some interesting mechanics without losing what HeroQuest is so good for, and that is how streamlined it is. And so it's really easy, if you're not careful, to make this game more complicated than is good for it. I certainly think that's what happened with a game like Sword and Sorcery Immortal Souls, which I love all that's going on in that game, but it is more busy, I think, than it should be. So anyway, for my enjoyment anyway, I really have to be in the right mood and have the brain power to really, be willing to keep track of all that's going on. It has a higher complexity rating on Board Game Geek than Gloomhaven, which surprised me a little bit. Okay, so that was the elf, barbarian elf, dwarf. He doesn't have the ability to attack diagonally, and I don't think I want to risk him going in there. So maybe he'll just hang tight for now. And the wizard, let's see. Oh, the wizard just has a dagger. He doesn't have a staff right now, so he can't attack diagonally either. I mean, I guess I could use Seeking Bolt, but I really don't want to at this point. So, see, even just having those options just gives me something else to at least consider, And that's what I'm aiming for. I'm not necessarily thinking I'm going to be using these special abilities all the time, but it's nice to have them at my disposal and think, is this, is the cost worth using this right now? And so some interesting choices there. So the wizard is going to, I think, stay put. Oh, geez. That Fimmer could try to barrel through. He only has to get through. You know what? He's going to at least move here. He's going to at least move here. The Fimmer cannot grapple him, but if the Fimmer wanted to do a reckless charge into this room, he would have to take an attack from the Barbarian and from either the Wizard, which is probably what he would do, or the Elf. And so I just want to, any way I can, up the cost and make it a little less likely for that Fimmer to want to come in there. Okay, so that's the end of the Wizard's turn. Now I've got 5 threat at my disposal. And actually, I'll just start with Zargon's turn. I need to take my son to school, but I'm going to be back in about 40 minutes to continue the stream this morning. But that's all the time I have for right now. So I'll just remember that I'll put this right here. That'll remind me that I marked down my threat, and it is Zargon's turn right now. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you will come back in just a little bit as I continue playing HeroQuest. Bye-bye. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.